Welcome back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Bible study. Thank y'all again for tuning in. We're going to pick back up where we left off. We're talking about Gideon, Gideon, who was the guy that was threshing wheat in the wine press, hiding from the Midianites. So anyway, the last chapter ended with Gideon asking God, I'm gonna put this fleece out on the ground. If the fleece is wet and the grass is dry, when I wake up in the morning, I'll know that I understood you correctly, and we will win the war against the Midianites. And it happened. The Lord answered him, and so he did it one more time. Said, Lord, please don't be angry with me, but I'm going to lay the fleece out again. And at this time, if the fleece is dry and the ground is wet, then I will definitely know that we will win the war. And of course, God answered his prayer, and it happened exactly like he said. So now, that's where we left off in chapter 6. Let's go ahead and jump into chapter 7. Then Jerubbaal, who was Gideon, remember they started calling him Jerubbaal after he destroyed their false god. So then Jerubbaal, who was Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Herod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, mine own hand hath saved me. Alright, so what he's saying there is, Israel has way too many men to go to war against the Midianites. So if they win the war, they're just going to say, it was us who defeated the Midianites. No. God said he is going to get the glory into this. So there's too many people. We're going to have to weed them out. If we win this war, they're going to have no doubt that it was God. It was God of Israel who helped them defeat the Midianites. So verse 3. Now therefore, this is God speaking. Now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 20 and 2,000, and there remained 10,000. That's a lot of people that scattered that was afraid. So there's only 10,000 Israelites left. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. Bring them down into the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be, that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomsoever I shall say unto thee, it shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So he brought down the people into the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, every one that boweth down upon his knees to drink. So he's saying he's going to go ahead and separate the ones that whoever dipped down and drank like a dog, lapped the water like a dog with his tongue, he's going to separate them to one side. And everyone who gets down on their knees to drink the water, he's going to separate them to the other side. Verse 6, and the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men, and all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand. And let all the other people go every man into his place. So there you have it. The 300 people is all he's going to have. Everybody else, go ahead and send them home. Let them be. So the people took victuals in their hands and their trumpets, and sent all the rest of Israel, every man into his tent, and retained those 300 men. And the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, arise, get thee down into the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Purah thy servant down to the host. Go thou with Purah thy servant down to the host. And thou shalt hear what they say, and afterward shalt thine hands be strengthened to go down into the host. So if you pay attention, you say, hey, but if you don't believe, if you're scared, you don't think it's going to happen, you just take Purah your servant and go down and listen to what they're talking about. Then you'll be strengthened enough to go back down. So we'll see what happens. So then he went this is verse 11 in the middle of it. Then he went down with Purah his servant, and to the outside of the armed men that were in the host. And the Midianites and the Amalekites, and all the children of the east, lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude. That's a lot. And their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. He's getting a big description of how many they are. And remember, they are only 300. Verse 13, and when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came into a tent, and smote it that fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay alone. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel, for into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the host. Verse 15, and it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel and said, Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian. So that's exactly what the Lord said. He said, go down with Purah your servant and listen to what they got to say. Then you'll be strengthened enough to go. And that's exactly what he did. He heard them tell that dream, and that gave him the confirmation and the motivation to say, you know what? Let's go get them. We got it. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies. And he put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall you do. When I blow a trumpet, I and all that are with me, then blow you the trumpet also on every side of all the camp, and say, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came into the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets, and broke the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets, and broke the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands, to blow withal. And they cried, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place around the camp. And all the host ran and cried and fled. And the 300 men blew the trumpets. And the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Beth Shittah in Zerath, and to the border of Abimamolah, and to Tabbath. So what's happening is the Lord intervened, and every man turned their own sword like friendly fire. They turned their own sword against their own people, and started. So they're taking each other out. Verse 23. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, Come down against the Midianites, and take before them the waters unto Beerbarah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, and took the waters unto Bethbarah and Jordan. And they took 2 princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb. And they slew Oreb upon the rock of Oreb, and Zeb they slew at the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. So they called the people of Ephraim, that was that region. They called that tribe and said, help us out and get them. So they did, and they got 2 princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb, and they beheaded them, and they brought the heads to Gideon to let him know that they got them. So going into chapter 8, and the men of Ephraim said unto him, Why hast thou served us thus, that thou callest us not, when thou went to fight against the Midianites? And they did chide with him sharply. So I didn't know what chide with him sharply meant. I kind of got an idea. I just looked at a few other versions, but I like the New King James Version says, and they reprimanded him sharply. And the NIV says, and they challenged him vigorously. So pretty much they called him out. Like, they're saying, like, you know, why didn't you call us? Why didn't you let us get in on the action whenever y'all went to war with them? Why y'all only call us near the end? You know? And he said to them, this is Gideon talking, what have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. Now, abated. I looked that up. Alright, the definition of abate means to cause something to become smaller or less intense. So pretty much he's saying, y'all already got the best of everything. You've already got the best grapes, so you're going to get the best wine in all the region and everything. I mean, you guys already got honor and taking down the 2 princes of the Midianites. You know, how can I compete with that? So their anger died down and everything. So, verse 4, and Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint, yet pursuing them. So, they're tired. They've been battling the Midianites, so they're kind of tired. They're a little wore out. And he said unto the men of Succoth. So they've reached this region, this place called Succoth. So pay attention right here. If you're taking notes, write down Succoth. This is the place that they stopped at. So this is Gideon asking them, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian. So Zebah and Zalmunna are the kings of Midian. He's going after them. He's already got the 2 princes. And the princes of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give you bread into your army? And Gideon said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. Man! Gideon wasn't playing. So they were saying, have you already won the war? Have you already got the 2 kings' head? Why are we going to feed you? You got to prove to us. Why are we going to feed you? Why are we going to give you the best of our food and provide with something for you? And you hadn't even got the kings. You hadn't even won the war. So Gideon didn't like that, man. So he says, oh, I will win them. And when I do, I'm going to tear your flesh off with the thorns from the wilderness. So he ain't playing, man. Verse 8. So he went up thence to Penuel and spake unto them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered him. The same way. Why am I going to give you food? You hadn't killed them yet. Can you prove that you've already killed them? Well, we ain't feeding you. Verse 9, and he spake also unto the men of Penuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. So verse 10, now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their host with them, about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the host of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword. And Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in the tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them, and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. And Gideon the son of Joash returned from battle before the sun was up, and caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him. So Gideon, he's got the kings of Midian. He's got Zebah and Zalmunna. And it says he saw a young man from Succoth. Remember, Succoth was the first place they stopped. He seen a young man and he went and stopped to ask him something. So verse 14, and called a young man of the men of Succoth and inquired of him. And he described unto him the princes of Succoth, and the elders thereof, even 70 men. And remember, what does score mean? Score means 20. So 3 score is 3 times 20. That's 60 plus 17. So 3 score and 17 men is 77 men. And he came unto the men of Succoth and said, behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom you did upbraid me, saying, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness and briars with them. And with them he taught the men of Succoth. So he took them to school, ladies and gentlemen. He taught them something. You're going to learn today. And he beat down the tower of Penuel and slew the men of the city. Man, boy, he kept his word. He came back and he did everything he said he was going to do because they didn't feed them when they were hungry. So verse 18. Then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom you slew at Tabor? So he's asking the kings right now. He's asking the kings of Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom you slew at Tabor? And they answered, as thou art, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. And he said, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. As the Lord liveth, if you have saved them alive, I would not slay you. And he said to Jether, his firstborn, so Gideon's talking to his son, his firstborn son, up and slay them. So get up and kill them. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. So his son was scared to do it. He ain't never killed nobody, it seems like. Verse 21, then Zebah and Zalmunna said, rise down, fall upon us, for as this man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. He said, hey, why don't you get up and do it yourself? So that's pretty much what Gideon said. Alright, say no more. So verse 22, then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, rule thou over us, both thou and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. They're showing their respects, like rule over us, like a king would pretty much. Rule over us. We owe our everything to you. Verse 23, and Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. You know, that's honorable right there, right? Like, you know what? I'm not, but the Lord is. I mean, that's good stuff right there. Now look how quickly it changes in the next verse. And Gideon said to them, I would desire a request of you, that you would give me every man the earrings of his prey. For they had gold earrings when they were Ishmaelites. They wanted to go through their plunder, like, you know, a lot of times in battle and in war, whenever they would been slain, they would go through all the dead people's stuff and gather their plunder to keep for themselves, their money, their jewelry, their stuff like that. So Gideon's saying, I don't want to be your king, but then he turns right around and asks something that the king would ask. They answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks. You know you got to have a lot of money that you got your camel decked out with jewelry on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you understand, that was their Cadillac of the day, was their camel, man, and they made sure he had some 24-inch rims on it. I mean, that's what the camels had. So verse 27, and Gideon made an ephod thereof and put it in his city. Remember what an ephod is? It was like a vestment that the priest wore. But in this, he made an ephod out of it. He melted the gold and made a golden image, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah. And all Israel went thither, a-whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. So they're worshiping this as a god. He said the Lord's going to rule over you, and he turns around and makes a false god, and they're worshiping it. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads and no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal the son of Joash went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons. He had 70 sons. 70. And not one in it, a girl ain't pop out. He has 70 sons. 31. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. Now this is somebody, he said he didn't want to be king, right? The Lord is going to be the ruler over you. But he names his son Abimelech. Abimelech means, my father is king. Look it up. Verse 32. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abezerites. And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again, and went a-whoring after Balaam, and made Baal-berith their god. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who would deliver them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had showed unto Israel. So as soon as their leader Gideon died, they all turned away from the Lord. They all started serving Baal again. And while Gideon's family was still alive, he had 70 sons. While all of his family was still alive, instead of honoring them and Gideon's family, they're one of their favorite leaders that they wanted to be. They wanted Gideon to be their king. That's how much they respected him. But as soon as he died, they didn't show no respect to none of his household. It ends with Abimelech. So Gideon came a long way. He came a long way from hiding from the Midianites, threshing wheat in the winepress, to being very humble that God would even want to use him, to actually winning the war through God's help. He knows it was from God. From being very humble to now getting a big head with everybody loving him, and how quickly he turned and started acting like someone not of the Lord, making a false god, and having all the children worshiping after it. I just find it ironic how in the scripture they go back and forth from calling him Gideon, then Jerubbaal, because remember, Jerubbaal is what they called him whenever he destroyed his father's altar for Baal. And all the townspeople wanted to kill him for it, but he was doing the work of the Lord. He turns right around later on in life and makes an ephod and turns the country of Israel, leads them into idolatry. He started out destroying Baal, and then he turns right around and leads them into idolatry again. And we just wanted to point out a couple of things where Gideon said he didn't want to be their king, but yet he turns around and acts like one. There's 3 points. So if you got notes, you want to take down notes. You know, one, he asked for their gold, right? And then if you notice, where he had 70 sons, he says he had concubines. So, you know, a lot of kings had multiple wives, multiple concubines, and things like that, and had plenty of children. So he's acting like a king in that sense right there, because God only intended for a man and woman to be together and to become one flesh. And you see it all throughout the Bible with kings, and you know, plenty of people had multiple wives and concubines. So in that sense, he is acting like a king there. And last but not least, he named his child, "My Father is King." I do want to say, us looking back on Gideon's life, you know, he did obey God. He did walk faithfully with God. As you can see, he did make some mistakes near the end of his life. And not to take up for his mistakes or say it's okay. Not saying that, but Gideon was a human, just like all of us. He made mistakes. I'm sure, I know myself, and I'm sure you at home, we've all made plenty of mistakes. Way more worth than we should have been forgiven for. The thing about God is He's forgiven. He's got plenty of grace and mercy for us. And I do want to say this, and if you know Scripture, despite all of that he did near the end of his life, Gideon still gets mentioned in Hebrews chapter 11, what we all like to call the Hall of Faith. You know, he still he still had love for God. He still obeyed God. That speaks to you. That just goes to show you that God can still look past a lot of the mistakes that you made. You know, a lot of us, I'll put it like this, a lot of us might do some things in our life and feel like, man, I don't feel worthy of anything anymore. You know, I don't feel like that God really holds me up here anymore. I've just done these things after I've been with God, and yeah, I've asked for forgiveness and everything, but at the end of the day, I still done those things, so I don't feel like he should hold me up to here. I feel actually down here. I don't feel like my life is that worthy anymore. This proves to me that God, him still being mentioned in the Hall of Faith, he was still somebody. God still can look past those things because he is a forgiving God. He still loves us, and all he asks is us to serve him and to obey him. We don't know the ins and outs. God is the only judge. At the end of the day, God is going to be the only judge. We do have to answer for everything that we've ever done. There's going to be one day that we're going to have to answer for everything. But don't beat yourself so low. You can come back. God can look past stuff, but he wants you to bring it to him with a humble heart, asking for forgiveness and giving your all to him. Get back up and go at it again. But anyway, guys, I'm going to stop right there. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Please click share. Share this with a friend. You know, like, comment. And most of all, subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel. We're going to get into chapter 9 next on the next video, and that's going to be about Jerubbaal's son, Gideon's son, Abimelech, and he is a character. But anyway, looking forward to it. Love y'all. God bless.